Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank all my patron supporters at patreon.com/bsmpod for continuing to support me and what I'm doing. Big shout outs to my senior producers, especially. We have Ventus Official and my mom and dad. Love y'all. Thank you for your support, for everybody's support. New announcement type thing just before we get started here for the people who follow the podcast on a semi-regular basis. My Discord server is now open. When I say that, I mean if you look at my link tree or whatever, you'll see a link to the Discord. You can hop in and say hello. I'm trying to have conversations with y'all every day as much as I'm able to bandwidth wise handle that. But the point is that's a new thing in 2023. So stop by in and say hello. Now, I'm very excited to have yet another photographer. I've previously had on Battery, who does stuff based out in Tri-State. Not super a lot of events anymore, partially because he moved down to Tennessee, but there have been some great portfolios out there that Battery's put out, is my point. Now I turn to the UK. We have VERD here from all the way from the UK to talk about not just a Melee side of things, because you've photographed Melee events, of course, but also Ultimate side of things. So I'm stretching my zone a little bit here. I know I call it bottom of the Smash Mountain and not the Melee Mountain, but I talk about Melee so much that it's so cool to give myself an opportunity to hear a little bit more about Ultimate. I played it for a while, but we're not necessarily here to talk about gameplay either. We're here to talk about you. All that to say, I'm very happy to have you on, VERD. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I saw the tweet. Somebody gave you a glowing recommendation for, hey, you need to get VERD at your events. And then I look at your portfolio, I'm looking at your Twitter, I'm going, yeah, VERD is really cool. And I remember seeing some of those pictures from Fate, but I didn't I didn't connect. See, I did that bad thing, right? I didn't connect who the person was who took all the great pictures, and that was you. So I went back and looked at that portfolio again because, that's memory lane. Skurza was there. Amsa was there. That was one of Amsa's first big wins this year to kind of make everybody go, oh, Amsa could possibly win tournaments with more people. You get it. So obviously I'm thinking the Melee side of things, but you haven't just done Fate. You've done other events out in the UK and Ireland, and something for the people to know while we still have most of you, audience retention. You're doing a yearbook for 2022, like a physical copy book. Is that right?
Yeah, and as we record this, Hot Scoop, which I haven't actually announced yet, is going to be going on sale next week. Well, for pre-order. But yeah, it was kind of the thing that I clocked that I had shot over half of all Smash Ultimate events in the UK that had over 100 entrants last year. And so I figured, hey, I can put something together out of this, if for no other reason than I would like to have something that I can hold in my hand and be like, hey, look, I made this. But I was able to sort of make it into a much bigger community thing, managing to rope in other photographers from up and down the country and two from over in Ireland as well to really make it that full community thing. And yeah, it's really exciting and going to be coming soon.
So this will go out before next week. So now y'all know to keep an eye at @VERDPhoto on Twitter, and that will be in the links in the description below. You guys all get it. Y'all get it. So I'm happy to hear that that's going on sale officially, because I was looking at the tweet and I was going, don't see a link in the replies type comment. It's just more of, this is coming, and there's a picture of it, and we're all going, I saw Tori over here in the US doing a QRT quote retweet kind of thing. That's so cool, by the way. You do seem to have a pretty collaborative spirit. That is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you about, because I see you bumping up other photographers. I mean, I'm curious about the collaborative spirit, where you think that comes from. Is that the way you were raised, or is that something you've learned by being in the community, or how would you phrase it?
It's kind of a tough one, because I've never really had any sort of competition when it comes to UK Smash photography, because when I started doing it, there wasn't really anyone else doing it. So I've never had that sort of fighting spirit of I need to beat other people down kind of drilled into me. Like, that's just not there. So anytime I see another photographer, I'm like, yes, come, do it as well. It's fun. It's great, I swear. And so there's a very small handful of other UK photographers now, and anyone that I see taking any sort of interest, if they're like posting a bunch of photos that they've taken on their phone or whatever, I'm like, here, have my spare camera for this event. Do whatever you want on it. Because I just want more people to be doing it. And if, like with the yearbook, if I can give back to them monetarily, that's great. But even if it's just sort of encouragement and like, here's how I do things, here's how I operate, then I also think that's really, really useful.
Shouts out to John Dad's son for following on Twitch, by the way. We are live, of course, while we do this. So thank you, John Dad's son. Don't know who that is. They seem to know you. Anyway, that's cool that you have a couple people stopping through. So you're talking about how you don't have the big competitive spirit in, I think it depends on the person, right? Because I've heard people talk on my podcast before or other content that I've watched. They talk about how that competitive spirit doesn't come out until, I guess, you start to care about something when you might just be playing games with your friends, and then all of a sudden you start to want to win more, and you go, wait, what's this feeling? Like sometimes it depends on the person, but it's like a deep-seated, not going to grow until you water it kind of an idea, right? Like you start to feed that side of yourself and wake it up. Do you think that is within you somewhere, or do you go, no, it's not really?
I got into this because I was playing Smash competitively. Like,
all right.
Just taking a camera to events, and it sort of grew from there. But I'm an incredibly competitive person, but I know when to sort of put that aside. So when it comes to like photography in the UK, I want people at the events that I can't be at for whatever reason, because I think having photos at events is such an important thing. It's really difficult for, I don't know. I don't know if anyone else gets this, but like I struggle to remember events that there aren't photos of. Because photos just give that like one key moment, and it's like, oh yeah, that happened, and it definitely happened because there's this picture of it, kind of thing.
I like that, because there are a lot of events that I have been to, locals, where there might be only a top 3 photo up afterwards of the top 3 finishers, but then there wasn't really a whole lot else or nothing else. And the few photos that I found recently, but I was looking for a bunch for our local scene, and I was going, wow, we are really not good at taking and posting pictures of our events. But when you see one, you go, it was on this night, this person won, or I had this for dinner with the people afterwards. Because, we'll go to a bar or whatever afterwards. It's not just we're there to play video games, but then we'll go out somewhere and socialize afterwards. That's part of the joy of locals, especially, or for bigger events. Thankfully, they do make sure there's somebody like you there, and there are pictures that you see afterwards. It might even be years later, but you see it, and it does that 1,000 words in a picture idea. It just fills in everything else, and you get a really great trip down memory lane. So you're right in saying that it helps to make sure that this was a real thing, but it helps to bring it all back, because if I try to recall an event that I went to a long time ago just by memory, I don't know, if you have even one picture, you can bring it all back so much better and tell a story, as compared to, I did that. What else happened that day? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I leave my entire back catalog of every event I've ever taken a camera to live on my website, where even like looking back at the events I shot at like start of 2017, the first event I ever took a camera to, before I knew what a white balance was or what a raw photo was or anything like that, which are super basic to me now. I leave those up because even though the pictures are terrible, there's still something really important about having that documentation of the scene.
Yes, and I'm ashamed of some of the production scale levels of my podcast previously before where I am now. So I feel that upgrade process. Did you start taking, you talked about playing competitively, but then you found yourself bringing camera along and wanting to take pictures, and it grew from there. So tell me about the first Smash game that you actually played. So I feel like you're young enough that you were not playing video games when Smash 64 came out. So put me into So put me in when you remember playing Smash for the first time. What game was it, and what was it like?
So I grew up with Melee, but not competitively at all. My older brother grew up, had a GameCube, And so, of course, we had Melee because we had a GameCube. But in terms of competitive, I was playing Smash 3DS a lot. And that was kind of my on-ramp of I had hundreds and hundreds of hours in Smash 3DS. And then I also started playing Project M, just playing it on NetPlay. So I had Smash 3DS, and I had a GameCube controller and adapter. And I saw that there was a Smash 4 tournament near me, and I was like, well, it's basically Smash 3DS. I'll go along. So the first time I ever played on Lilat was in bracket at that first tournament. I'd never actually played on a Wii U before that event.
That's rough.
And I mean, it turned out all right. I think I got like second in Ami bracket or something, which, you know, for a first event, it's not too bad.
The game sense was strong. Nice.
I mean, yeah, but I don't really compete anymore. It's the 9 to 5 life. I just don't have the time to practice and the hours to put in to stay relevant enough. And I have my way of keeping myself amused at events, so it's fine.
Yes, because did you bring a camera that first tournament, or was it just a little bit later because you started making like connections?
So I started competing in July of 2015. The first event I took a camera to was in January of 2017. So there was a solid year and a half between me starting to go to tournaments, getting embedded in the scene, and then being like, hey, what if I brought my camera?
What's this white background thing you were talking about earlier? Can you educate me on that? If it's a basic thing, it sounds like it could be easy to explain.
Yeah, so white balance is basically the color shift of the photo. So it's basically a setting to make the white things in the frame actually look white. So right now I can see that my camera's very orange, which is making me look quite orange just because of the color of the lights. So you'd correct that by shifting it in a way to make what should be white, like this wall, actually white. Basically just that.
That feels like something that, I wouldn't really think about. Guess this wall is supposed to be white as well, I guess. I don't know. I actually have this halo light tinted. It would normally be a very LED, very almost a pale bluish white color, you know what I'm talking about. But it has a couple of different like color settings, so this makes my face a little bit less pale, I guess. I mean, look, I'm about as pale as they come anyway, so I can't really do a whole lot, but I could do enough to not make it super bad. But I guess it does make the wall not look white anymore. There's a thought. Okay, I learned something new. That's awesome. I'm curious about, I should have turned down for Walt on again because we were arguing about a limiter on audio. How much do you dabble with audio stuff? Do you do any filming or is it just pictures?
I basically don't do videography or anything like that, or at least not within the Smash sphere. I was educated and I did a degree in film studies and film production and stuff. So I am able to do that stuff. It's just very much the thing of, because I prefer doing photography so much more, and I really don't like splitting my focus between the two at one event. Because anytime that I'm like in video mode, I'm thinking I could be getting photos of this. And it's the exact same thing the other way around, where when I'm in photo mode, I'm like, I could be getting video of this. And something always gets missed if you're trying to wear both hats at once, which is why if you want both, you should just hire 2 people.
Oh, there's a good solution. Get 2 people working. That's awesome. You're doing such a cool thing for the videographers. I'm done. I'm moving on to another word. So then you could probably maybe speak to this from your education standpoint. If I put a limiter on my audio intake so that it doesn't go into the yellow and red, the decibel registration of how close you are to the mic and such, if you could put on a filter limiter so that it will stop your audio level from going too far into yellow and red, is that a real thing? Or, this is Walt's perspective, you should just have somebody actually monitoring the levels. If they start to raise their voice, bring down their intakes so that they don't go into the like blow out the microphone or anything. Yeah. What is your opinion on this matter from your education standpoint? Now, I'm not saying from a seasoned experience, you know, I get it.
I mean, Walt is 100% correct. The best solution is physically having someone with a mixing desk and just moving that slider. But it's not always feasible to have that extra set of hands. And if you can't, then a limiter is fine. Like, it's obviously not the optimal solution, but it does work.
But I don't understand. My voice never goes beyond a certain limit I don't understand what the problem is.
It's basically, if you think of the shape of a waveform as you see it, right? And you get the sort of rises and bumps. What a limiter does is it sets a cap of where that waveform's going to go. So if the waveform starts to go over it, instead it's just making that noise.
Yep.
Which has the effect of fully compressing everything that's above it into this squash. So everything that's above it, all the detail in that audio just gets lost. Whereas if it's slid down, you still get the full waveform shape, which is what you like because the full dynamic range.
Okay, but also I don't like blowing out my ears, and I know something that I always complain about for listening to podcasts, it'll be too quiet and then it'll be too loud. And I go, well, what's the point here? I mean, what I would like to hear is clear, you know, people talking. And then if they start to yell and laugh and get excited and, you know, that's all super fun. We like a little bit of range and not for it just to sound like this the whole time of falling asleep already. But I don't like having my ears blown out. I hate it. And actually, I feel like other people feel the same way as me. They'll go, oh, it's too quiet and then too loud. So am I committing a big sin by doing the cap, or is it just like a necessary evil?
No, not at all. It's not a huge sin, I don't think. I mean, I'm someone that when I'm editing a podcast, the first thing I do is just slap a compressor on it. So I really can't speak to maintaining audio fidelity. Like, I accept that it's gone. So, but...
how you talked about taking thousands on thousands of photos per each event, and I want to know where are you just literally trying to capture every single moment when you're in that, because your photography seemed to be, oh, I can't do video because I want to take a picture of this right now. So you were talking about that earlier. Does that mean when you're in picture mode you're going, wait, somebody's laughing, and try to take a pic? Like, is it like what's the goal there?
It's not so much that. I think the thread you're referencing is probably the one where I was like, this is how much I get paid and per event and so on and so on. But basically, I currently take about 3,000 photos per day at an event, which is overshooting. I hold my hands up and admit that I'm overshooting. I'm making too much work for myself. But that is primarily because I work at a continuous shutter. So every time I press the shutter button, I'm taking 3, 4, 5, 6 photos, however many, depending on the moment, obviously. That is purely so that I make sure that if someone's popping off, I get the full thing. I get the start of it, I get the end of it. I don't miss anything in the middle because I pulled the shutter at the wrong time. It also means that if it's like a group shot, then I can choose the best option because people blink and all that kind of stuff. That means I can do cheeky things like, hey, on 3, say whatever the event name is, and then pull the shutter when I'm on 2 and just keep it rolling and just pick the best one.
So it's not 3,000 different scenarios. It's going to be much less than that, but it's not a shotgun effect, but it almost is.
Yeah, if I had to estimate, it would probably be like 800 to 900 actual shots. I think average burst probably slightly over 3. Maybe you might be underestimating that. It might be closer to 4.
I don't feel like doing math. So that still feels like a lot. So you've gotten to the point where you can see all these pictures and kind of just like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. How fast do you throw the ones that you don't want on the floor? Because my stress level when it would come to, here is your project, you need to cut a lot out of it, I go, my babies, like that would be my thing. But you're trying to make the fee that you charged to take pictures at the event, make that count for spending less time on the project as possible. So you have that challenge in front of you and you've mastered it. So just take me through the process a little bit.
Yeah. So my culling process from how I get to that 3,000 down to the 100 or so that I'll post. There probably is a better way of doing it than what I do. But what I do at the moment is I use a 5-star rating system. Anything with 1 star are the things that were rated in camera. And those are the things that you'll see on my Twitter feed or on the TO's team Twitter feed during the day of the event, because that's the stuff that I've pulled off my camera onto my phone, edited on my phone at the event, and sent off to wherever it needs to go. Then when I get home afterwards, the first pass of culling, I'll rank everything that passes that cull 2 stars. And that's basically just picking the best photo from each photo bust. But not bothering to rank the photos that definitely don't make any cut anyway.
Right, sure.
So that first cull generally cuts things down to like 400 or so.
Oh, and very nice.
I progressively get less and less, so 3-star, 4-star, 5-star cull, whatever, until I'm at about 100 and I'm happy with every shot that's in there. Sometimes it can be done in like 2 culls, sometimes it takes 3, sometimes it takes the full 4, but it's a relatively streamlined process. There's definitely better ways of doing it, but it's what I found works for me.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's different ways to do it, right? Like you're saying, it's in the same way that you can play Smash in different ways. You can either play Samus, or you could play somebody who uses less reliance on projectiles. And for the record, I'm not slighting Samus's. I am only thinking of Samus because I played one in ranked Slippy the other day, and that was good. I did actually end up winning, but it was not looking good for a second. But
let's go.
We landed on our feet. So when you think about the time that you were talking about, the beginning of 2017 when you started taking pictures, right?
Yep.
And then you're now going into 2023. That means you're going into the 6th year. This has been a 5-year anniversary kind of thing. Am I thinking of that? No, 6-year anniversary. You're going into your 7th year now. Is that it? Because 7
Jesus Christ.
is 6. Yeah, 6 years, right? And now you're going into your 7th year.
Yeah.
What comes to mind other than frick? I'm old or something. I don't know. You get it.
I don't know. I literally have a spreadsheet open on my other monitor of all the events I've ever shot, and I'm just looking at it like, yeah, no, that is 6 years of shooting events. It's just a long time, isn't it?
So what's been your favorite recent learned lesson? Because you talked about continually learning and making the process better. And for me, I'm always trying to pick up little tricks, although I will say I can't recall the last one that I did. Oh, never mind. I'm just kidding. I had to move my entire setup. Let me go backwards. So first, I had to have my computer set up hiding in a closet every time I wasn't using it because of my 2 children. They would just get into it and break something. They don't mean to. They can't help it. They're still little. And so every time I have to put it somewhere where it's out of their reach. So it's setting up, it's tearing down every single time. A full tower, 2 monitors setup. So that's fun. But recently reconfigured my wife and I's room to make it so that I can have this setup in here. Most of the electronics are out of their reach, and now they are old enough it's been a year since I've had this, so they kind of understand a little bit more to not touch it or to only touch it when I'm here. So that's great. Great. But I had to redo the sound, how this microphone catches me, because I had a very specific way of doing it downstairs. It changed up here. So I learned a bunch of new tricks in OBS while I was trying to figure all that stuff out. So you can name something that comes to mind that you've learned recently, that you remember learning recently about what you like to do with taking pictures or the editing process or whatever part of the process comes to mind. Yeah,
so in terms of a specific thing, it's definitely going to be something in the editing, because I think when it comes to the composition and actual shooting of photos, I think that's a much more holistic process. There's not necessarily a, hey, I've learned to do this kind of thing. It's just you progress over time. It's like, I like taking this kind of shot. I think this looks good kind of thing. But no, the big come up for me in this last year was building my own Lightroom presets. And so that I have something in my pocket that I can just whip out and in like 3 presses of various things on Lightroom, I can have a photo very, very close to being edited and only needing very slight tweaks, which is why I can get that turnaround time so quick.
How long? Wait, so presets. Oh no, I know what you're talking about now. Okay, so you have
I load the photo into Lightroom. I click one button on the other side of the screen,
and it just
applies
comes
all
out
the things.
Yeah,
and then from there it's just slight tweaks, photo to photo.
So this is not a process. This is not a process that you could take a really bad photo and it'll instantly make it look better. You're putting something good into it, and then it actually can tweak everything you want it to properly. Automatically, because it, like I'm thinking of like this magical machine where you can put something with either poor lighting or it's out of focus and whoosh, it's better. But that's not true, is it?
No, and a lot of the skill is finding the spots where the lighting is good, or finding the angle to make the lighting seem good even if it's awful.
How do you feel about indoor lighting? Okay, please continue.
I've shot events with your stereotypical esports red and blue ceiling lights, and the most recent event I shot was an event called Den of Dragons over in Wales, and it was Wales's first big 100+ tournament, and it was a really, really good event. But for me as the photographer, their stream setup had a red light behind it and a green light behind it in really awkward positions. So having to work with that and even just balance the colors around the vibrant colors being lit, lighting their faces behind them, was so difficult to work around.
I was wondering how you got these, because I was like, oh, interesting. There's so much green, but there's not really green on their faces. Now I understand. You were
if you're looking at the Den of Dragon photos, it's literally lights behind the sort of ceasing around there that are pointed directly upwards. So it's just
I see it in one of the shots.
Bright green.
That's tough. Can't put that through a normal preset. Sheesh.
No, I had to improvise on the day and rebuild presets in Lightroom Mobile to get anything serviceable out on the day. And even then, some of the skin tones ended up horrific. Even just scrolling through it now, some of these skin tones are very red, but it is what it is.
Yo, VERD, we want you to shoot our next event. That's great. Are you using green and red lights? Okay. I'll just bring the sauce this time. Okay, it's hard to pick favorites, right? But I want to just take out on a limb. Did you enjoy Fate 2 just because it wasn't the average event? It was probably one of the biggest or the biggest event of the year? Or is it more of, no, I really like the small moments, the smaller events? You tell me.
Fate is very unique at least within the European calendar. It was maybe the only event I went to this year that I'd have been going to as a player anyway. Because I'm very much a P+ player, and they had P+, and we're going to be the biggest event of the year for it. But no, I think in terms of, I don't know, Fate's a weird one, because equally the week before Fate, we had Regen 2022, which is the biggest Ultimate tournament in the UK.
You were busy.
And then 4 days later, I was on the other end of the country shooting Fate, and it was just I have no time to rest in between.
Yeah, because you got to go through all these photos from Regen 2022, and then all right, now it's time to ramp up into Fate, because their people are arriving as early as Thursday. I imagine, not that you're taking pictures on Thursday, but you get it. They probably start
a couple of setup ones, but yeah.
But you're starting on at least starting on Friday full swing. There's no chill.
Yeah, because Fate is the only time I've ever done portrait commissions at an event.
And I was wondering about that as well, because some of these portrait commissions turn out really nicely.
Yeah, so that's basically just because Fate's the place that I had the most time, because it is such a long scale event. I think I only took portrait commissions on the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Today was obviously just blocked out for the top end of brackets and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's literally just because it's when I had the time.
Oh, and you know what? You're talking about it being a multi-day event. Some of these other like Dens of Dragons, you probably have it just for one day. You're only there one day. Everybody's only there one day. So I don't have time to take portraits of you right now. Can't you see there's pools going on or what have you?
Yeah.
Do people ask though?
Yeah, it's kind of the thing where with Fate, obviously they were paid portraits, so it was a lot of effort. It was going out of the actual venues and away from the setups, unless people wanted photos with setups, which a handful of them did. And going away from all that and taking just sort of nice portraits or whatever they were wanting, really. But yeah, when it comes to people mid-event being like, "Oh, can you just take a picture of this?" kind of thing, it's like, yeah, sure. If it takes me 30 seconds, I'll point my camera at it and pull the trigger, because why not? Or like if people are like, "Hey, can you get a group photo of the scene from our city?" kind of thing. It's just like, yes, find me when you have everyone, then I'll do it.
And yes, I was about to say. Is everybody here?
Oh no! Maximizing how much I can get done with my time there, because I'm only there for 12 hours or however long I end up being at the event.
And did you say only 12 hours? That's insane.
Yeah,
because you're talking about an all-day event. Most people aren't there for all 12 hours. Just staff and the the enthusiasts. But take Big House for example. Big House was a 3-day event, and on Sunday, as soon as Melee Top 8 was over, and I mean this politely, sorry, Ultimate, but the Melee players, we bounced. We went out to a restaurant. We had, and I knew I was going to be driving back overnight back home. It was about a 6 or 7, like a 7-hour drive back home, and I knew I was going to be doing that overnight. So I'm going, well, if I leave now, then we could watch. So like, meanwhile, all the streaming staff is still there, and people like Juggle Guy are still there. The photographers like yourself, are not that you were at Big House, but you understand what I'm saying. We're still there. They can't leave, and that's the end of a very, very long week of just being there for 14, 15, 16 hours and only getting to go back to a hotel, crash for like 3 hours, and that's it. Then you have to get right back to it the next morning.
Yeah, no, that's a familiar experience.
But when you're thinking about, you get to have a lot of great events, it looks like, over there in the UK and in Ireland, Wales, Scotland. If you've taken pictures of events in Scotland.
Can't say I have, unfortunately. It's
okay.
a bit far to travel for me.
Okay, well, I mean, if hey, look, you don't have to fly out a top player. You could just fly out VERD to take pictures of your event.
If they cover the expenses to get me to Scotland, I would go to Scotland. But I accept that there's only so much money in the pot, and paying more than my rate in travel costs is somewhat ridiculous. But
also, in fairness, I can't think of a single event for Melee coming out of Scotland. I'd imagine it would be Ultimate events, maybe an Ultimate / another game like Melee event. So they're just, no pressure, Scotland. Just like grow to the point where I recognize an event name from your country. They used to
have the hype spotting series, which was FGC / Smash, but that was years and years ago now. That would have been like 2015, 2016. That was Smash 4 era.
When you were still new, to the scene in general.
Before I was taking pictures of stuff.
That's a shame. Yeah, because I think Air is UK and Fate is UK. There's another event that I feel like I should know the name of, but it's not coming to my mind right now, of an event that is kind of, it draws a lot of people, at least from Europe, out to the UK for it, but I can't recall what it is exactly. So that's an L for me. That's unfortunate. But for the the big events, I'm just thinking about how you've gotten to do a lot of those big events, and that's really, really cool. I'm just curious about if you've done this for a while now, you seem to be pretty like, oh yeah, this is great. This is chill. Yeah. I'm curious about the what vibe, because for me, I don't know what I'm going to be thinking in 4 years when I get to year 6, because now I've done it for 2 years. I'm going into my 3rd year of podcasting. I go, well, I would imagine it would be kind of cool to go to more events, go to Europe for an event. I would love to. I just don't think I'm going to be able to actually get out to a place like the next Air tournament or HF LAN whenever it happens this year. So it's unfortunate, but for you, is it a goal of yours to try to take pictures somewhere where they say, we're not going to pay for you to travel here, but if you travel here, we'll pay you to do pictures at this event? Or would you want to go to a big event overseas? It doesn't have to be in the United States, by the way. For all I know, you, Verd, might be just the biggest Smash Factor fan and you want to go to Mexico. I don't know. But do you think of an event that you go, oh, it would be so cool to go. I want to go. I will maybe take steps to going, because that's how tough it is to travel overseas. I do know at least that much.
Yeah, no, I would love to do international events, whether that's on the mainland Europe continent or whether that's over in the States, wherever. Because you're talking about sort of what the future holds kind of thing. And I very much accept that I'm sort of pushing the boundaries of what I can do in the UK already. Like, I'm already shooting the regens, the fates, the so on and so on. Obviously, assuming things continue and they have me back. But that's why things like the yearbook are coming about, because it's like, how can I push this further? How can I push myself further? And the scary steps are that I'm going to pay to do transatlantic travel and try and make that money back by shooting whatever events over in the States or anything like that. And as much as I'd love to do it, and I'm confident in my abilities in doing it, it's such a huge step to be like, I'm giving £1,000 to an airline to take me away, and hopefully my bank account still has some numbers in it by the time I'm home.
What is the 9 to 5 stuff that you do, without saying exactly what it is, but like, you're doing 9 to 5 stuff as well as on the weekends being the weekend warrior, doing the pictures and stuff. So how much of a possibility do you think if somebody said, we will pay you to do our event, but we're not going to pay for you to travel to our event, and it's in mainland Europe? That's distinctly more of a possibility than going to the United States, right?
Yeah, so I just work a pretty standard 9 to 5. I work in a communications department for a charity. Like, I have annual leave days that I basically bank up to use for traveling to events. So if I have like a 2-day event in the UK somewhere, I'll generally like take the Monday after off or that kind of thing. But yeah, if an international TO if like a French TO hit me up and was like, hey, come shoot our event, I'd be like, yeah, cool, I'm on board.
Because like, I'm thinking to myself, it has to be at least somewhat easier to travel to mainland Europe than it would be to travel to either the US or even beyond. So maybe that is a semi-realistic step. But if you don't have that happen to you in all of 2023 or all of 2024, what does that do to kind of your perspective of trying to push the limits of this? Not that you're, okay, I haven't gotten the impression that you're thinking, I must push the limits or else. But I feel as if you're saying to yourself, I wish to continue to rise to the challenge of something that's slightly higher than what it was before. There's still a little bit of, just a teeniest of a competitive, like you're almost trying to outdo yourself. Maybe like a runner who's saying, I want to run farther than I have or faster than I have before.
No, that's 100% it, is that I don't ever want to sit still. I always want to be pushing myself on as much as I can, right? I always want to be doing new things and learning new things that I can do and new approaches and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a tough one, because I don't necessarily see myself actively going for those international events, because it is such a risk and such a commitment. And I doubt I'm going to be sliding into the DMs of any international tournament organizers being like, hey, hire me, kind of thing, because it is just such a different thing. When it comes to how I push myself in terms of photography in the UK, it's honestly doing things other than Smash events. It's really branching out into other fighting games, other esports, or even beyond that, into other areas of photography entirely.
Don't do weddings though. Well, maybe you do want to do weddings. Some of these people, I saw somebody got in trouble for supposedly not wanting to spend $250,000 on a wedding, and I go, ooh, because I'm thinking of how much my wife and I spent. It was a lot less than 250,000, like fractions of a percent of that total sum. Crazy. But yeah, the wedding industry, I mean, it seems crazy to get into. Like, really, well paying, but also stressful is my impression of it. Have you ever done somebody's wedding as a favor or like a wedding gift, or never any
I
weddings?
haven't. No, I've got one booked in for May later this year.
Oh, so this will be the first one?
It will be, yeah.
Woo!
But that is a friend's wedding, so it's not like as massively high stakes as if it was a stranger coming to me being like, shoot my wedding, here's a lot of money. It's people who I've known for years, and yeah, so I know that exactly what they want, and they brought me on because they know the way that I shoot and the way that my photos generally turn out. So
is there somebody who you look to as inspiration for continuing to either learn more or discover more about photography? Or at this point, do you feel like, well, I go as far as I want to go. It's not going to be somebody else who fills me with more ideas. So, like, where do you look to for inspiration, within, or do you expand out?
I think it's always so important to be looking to others to sort of see what looks can be achieved, what you can do with things in the space. So you mentioned Tori earlier, Blue Rose Tori on Twitter. I highly recommend checking out her stuff because I think she's a wedding photographer by trade, and it really shows in the photos of Smash events that she takes, because it has that sort of warm glow, and it really does give a lot to the sort of photos and her style. But even outside of Smash and the sort of gaming sphere, I look to a lot of gig photography because they're the ones that also have to work with weird lighting and a lot of strange things while also having to be very, very in the moment of whatever the singer, the guitarist, the drummer, whatever their moment is. They have to be there and be right on it. So for that, there's a photographer I follow called Rosario Gutierrez. I think her handle's like "Don't Shoot Skrillex" or something like that. But she does the most unique gig photography, and her use of color is fantastic. And I really wish that I could replicate it, but I have no idea how she does it.
So, what would be more appealing than if it's a show? Like, I think of it like as a concert. That's what I call it. You called it a gig. If it would be a gig or a wedding, like, what's more appealing to you? Because they're two different shoots that you'd have to do for both of them.
I would definitely rather take a gig over a wedding, assuming that like pay was equal, which they never will be across those two. But
right, no.
Assuming money was no factor, I definitely want to do a gig over a wedding, purely just because that's the style of photography I like a lot more. I like finding those moments in the chaos. Whereas obviously weddings are much slower moving thing. A lot of it's very not necessarily staged, but you know that the bride's going to come down the aisle.
They have a rehearsal.
Yeah, exactly. You know exactly how it's all going to go, and there's never quite that spark of just that needle in the haystack moment of catching the eye of whoever at exactly the right moment, with insane stage lighting going on behind and all that kind of stuff.
Finding that moment within the chaos is, hopefully I will remember that beyond today, because that is a top something quote of the year to my brain so far. That's awesome.
I mean, it's like the 6th of January.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is a day that Americans will remember for a long time because of what happened a couple of January 6s ago. We just can't help ourselves. So I'm thinking now, you're talking about the preference of trying to go for that moment in the chaos, right? So
yeah,
when you're at events, it is where you find the best satisfaction, when you go, I got that moment, when you find it and you get it. That is that the biggest thing to you, or is it just something else that you really enjoy still doing it after all these years?
No, 100%. It's absolutely finding that moment and being able to point at the shot afterwards and being like, holy shit, I did that. I found that moment. So like the two that really stand out from this last year for me was at Fate, when Amza won, and I don't care what people say, when Amza won his first major at Fate 2. it predates Big House and all the other stuff he went on to do.
Exactly.
And there's one shot specifically of Amza holding his controller up to the crowd I have it on the homepage of my website, and he's framed just in front of the projector screen with his arm sort of verging over the edge of it. And one thing a lot of people don't appreciate about having a projector in a picture is that it scans progressively. So the light on the screen behind him is moving constantly.
Yep.
And the composition of that moment, of that exact shot, came together so perfectly with where the light line going across just above his head. And yeah, I love that shot dearly.
Yeah, I was noticing that you had it obviously front and page, but I didn't know how important the projection in the background was. I just thought to myself, with multiple light sources, it still turned out, Amsa himself still turned out really nicely. So I thought that must be the point of nope, it was the projector. And you're talking about going through that whole picture, and I'm seeing what you're talking about. And that's pretty nice. Also, who holds up? That's sort of like, Wizrobe won an event. It was Smash Factor, I believe. I don't think, no, because I remember Smash and Splash 5, he sort of did like the, yell. I think it was Smash Factor 9 where he waved with like holding the cord, waving the controller around like it was a web or something. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So this is actually pretty chill in comparison. He's just holding up his controller like it's like, this is my sword, you know, after winning a battle.
The kind of secret to that shot is that that's not actually the pop-off.
Right, no, that looked like it was afterwards,
I also have on my homepage, it's the one where he's got the two fingers up to the crowd.
Yeah. But no, I know Amsa's pop-off. He does it every single time he wins a tournament. It's the same thing. Yeah. I'm not going to show it. I've done enough demonstrating.
Yeah. But yeah, the shot where he's holding the microphone is when he's addressing the crowd after, I think just before the sort of prize giving and the trophy giving point.
Yeah, the top 8 finish stuff, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was at that point. But yeah, the other moment that I'm immensely proud of was from way back at the beginning of 2022 at Invasion January 2022, which is probably an event name which means nothing to most Americans. And deep cut of UK Smash Ultimate. But there was a set of GP versus Pelly, which are both very well-known names in the UK. Pelly, obviously, what was it? He won VCA 2021 over Gluto. And GP is a very long-standing figure in the UK scene. Was one of the biggest, was the TO for Albion, which might be a name that rings a bell for you guys. And it was a moment of GP beating Pelly and having this massive pop-off moment. I'll drop a link to
I'm seeing it literally as you're talking about it. This energy here.
Yeah, so it's...
The beard makes it even better, in my opinion. And I have to say, that looks like somebody being unleashed.
Yeah, so it's specifically the photo that I just dropped in Discord for you.
Okay,
you can just see
at the kill screen,
the eyes wide. Yeah, and on the stream screen at the top, you can see the ultimate like kill splash screen.
Yes.
And just below it, on the set that they're actually playing on, you can see the Sonic rocketing into the sky.
Yeah.
And just the moment, I love that shot, and it was shot on a shit camera.
Wow, just casually. That camera sucks, by the way.
That shot, like, how did I manage to do it? No, I had a massive kit upgrade in March of last year, which is why I can kind of get away with saying that. But
well, hey, I mean, you know, you're talking about getting better. Why don't you just let people say, oh, the whole group isn't together. Here, let me go and get them. And then an hour later, you're still ready to go. Like, all right, now I'll take the picture and get back to what I was doing. Oh, the pools are over. Yeah. Right then. Handicap yourself more. Take pictures with one hand or with eyes closed. No, I'm kidding. Don't do any of that. There's like, again, different stories all being told in each part of the shot. I think that's really cool as well. Like both ones that we've talked about specifically there's more than one thing happening. And so you're capturing somehow in one moment, actually multiple moments.
Yeah, 100%. And I have realized that part of my just photographic style is that I tend to shoot quite a bit wider than a lot of other photographers do. So I get a lot more in the frame. And I think it is because, like you're saying, there's a little bit added by each element in the frame. So thinking about that one of DP, you've got whoever's arm that is. I have no idea who it is now. Just verging over one corner.
They know what's happening. They're happy.
They know what's happening, and that's just a bit of an implication of what's happening just the other side of the camera, where you've got all the people popping off over it. And you've got the top right, where it's an incredibly busy frame, but everything just adds to the narrative of the photo.
So, let's see, Invasion. And DPB winning an event a couple years prior over Gluto. That's a pretty good win. And okay, I'm just curious about who all these people are. This is cool to me just because I don't recognize anybody that's here. Well, how about this? You don't have to do it specifically from Invasion. Who are some of your favorite UK based players? Ultimate, Melee, P+. Shouts out to P+, by the way. Love P+. You tell me, like, who are some of the people that you think, you know what? People in the US should know these people's names. You know, if they ever come to the US or if you come to our events here, watch out, kind of a thing.
As competitors, do you mean?
Yes, absolutely. But if you want to talk about TOs or fellow photographers or anybody else in the community, by all means, tell me who are some people that you think.
I mean, I feel like in the last year, a lot of the top UK players have done a very good job of sort of getting themselves known. Because obviously, like this time last year, no one would have known who Bloom Forever was, and now he's sort of in that conversation of in sort of the higher echelon of players. The same way, like Luigi probably wouldn't have been known 12 months ago to anyone outside the UK, but now he's considered like the best Luigi in the world kind of thing. In terms of competitors, people should know. It's really hard to say because our top cut, they're just getting known. It's Bloom, it's Luigi. Who else is probably up there? People like Owl Babies probably should be better known than he is.
That's a crazy tag, by the way. I would have remembered that if I had heard it before. Hey, no, well, also part of what I'm saying is there's somebody who I want to eventually interview. Swarm Engine has a podcast with Sharp, who's a player based in Sweden, but Swarm Engine, as far as I know, is UK. So when I'm thinking of Swarm Engine and going, well, at Fate 2, Swarm Engine won the bronze bracket, so that's cool, right? But probably not going to be good enough to place top 64 at a US major if Swarm Engine came out over here to go to Big House or something, or to go to Genesis, which is one of the big tournaments coming up. But I remember it was for Gommel, I believe, last year, Get on My Level in Toronto, Canada, that a lot of UK players, for Melee at least, it felt like there was more than... like obviously Professor Pro and Frenzy, but I feel like there was a few others who came out as well. But I just thought it was so cool. And then I'll give a shout out as well to Kingu, who I see in Melee Stats chat all the time.
Small child.
All the time. Kingu is in chat in the Melee Stats Discord server. So I'll give you a shout. Actually, somebody wants me to interview Kingu, so this is a good reminder for me. I should just reach out.
Kingu would definitely be interesting to interview because he is so young. I don't think he's able to even play at the next Fate because Fate's 18 plus.
Wow.
And he's been a top player in UK Melee for a couple years now. And basically since he was like 15, 16, he was a top player.
That's hilarious. You can come to the one when you're tall enough to ride, son. Like that. But hey, that pop-up will be massive, I'm sure. Yeah. Like why hasn't Kingu ever gone to a big UK event before? And just
because he's a child.
Like super clenching the fist going, I would have come. I would have placed, like, I would have beaten Namsa at Fate 2, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
What's your...
I think as far as Melee players, I think the big name that people should know but maybe don't is Max, the UK Sheik player. I think they're someone that really has potential to sort of go places if they ever want to break out of the UK scene.
How much pride do you take in like the regional type stuff, or is that more of trivial? You'll root for anybody. Like, is your favorite Smash Ultimate player not somebody based in the UK?
I mean, I root for the people that I know personally. Like, I don't really have any sort of connection to players outside of it, unless sometimes I might put a side bet on a match just to like make things a bit spicier. But no, it's I just sort of root for my friends when it comes to that kind of thing.
I like that.
And if I don't know any of the people, then yeah, I'll just root for the British person. Why not? Screw it.
Chances are, if you're still taking pictures throughout this time in 2023, which I'm sure you will, I hope you will, you'll get a lot of people to root for against the people that come out to the next Fate or to the next Air. I'm excited to see those really big events, but for the time in between, for the regionals that are hosted that you get to take shots of, looking forward to seeing more of this come out. Now, we've referenced your website several times. Let me make sure I take the time to point out that the link to it, it's verdphoto.co.uk. You can find that by looking it up, audio listener. But if you're audio listening, you will notice there is a description. You can see a link to that as well in the description. Go find where Verd has been able to show off these picture taking. No, chops. Show you off your chops. Yes, there we go. That's what I wanted to say. The last sort of the topic is plugs and shout outs or closing thoughts that you have. I don't think that you necessarily have a bunch of things that you want to get off of your chest here in this context, but I always want to make sure that people feel like, oh, well, be good to everyone, or any sort of thing that you like to live your life by as you close out here. But plugs, shouts outs, and any closing thoughts that you have, Verd, by all means, the floor is yours. Please take it and do with what you like.
So in terms of plugs, if you're interested in the Smash UK and Ireland yearbook, that will be going on sale next week, i.e. Probably the 12th of January, until it'll be pre-order only. So once it's gone and delisted, you'll never be able to get it because it's all pre-order only, like printed to order. And that will be on sale until the 20th of February. So if you're listening to this after that date, sorry about that.
That's tough. What about people who want to order from overseas? I don't think I'm going to be able to do it because we have not worked in our family for a while, so things are tight. But I'm saying there might be somebody over here in the US who wants one. What about that? What happens then?
International shipping options if that is something that interests you. But I accept that the core people that will be buying it will be the people featured in it, kind of thing, which will be the UK community. But yeah, there's European shipping, there's American shipping. Like it all works out. So yeah.
Just as long as we all know that it could possibly happen, as compared to it being, no, we're not shipping outside of the UK. Sorry, if you came to one of our events and you really like supporting me, but you live in Germany, no shot. It's not happening. I'm glad that that anybody can order it if they truly want to go through that process of paying for international shipping, then they can. Because that does sound like it would be a lot. Okay, sorry. Other shouts out. People that gave you I just don't know enough about the UK scene, so I like hearing any names that come to mind for people that either like gave you a shot or that brought you in and sort of welcomed you in. People that you're welcoming in yourself and going, I'm really excited for this person to be here because they're going places or they're such a cool influence for the community. Please, by all means, name drop as much as you like. And no pressure to name everybody, though.
I won't name everyone. I won't remember everyone.
Exactly.
But I think the big name, at least in the UK, for giving me a shot for a lot of things is GP. He basically got me my start in photography in terms of bigger events and letting me do the DBZs and some of the Albion events as well. Beyond that, shout out to all the Team Regen guys, who we are actually celebrating 5 years today since our first event, which is insane. And it's crazy to see how far we've come in that time, and looking forward to bigger and better things with, we've got New Era 3, the UK Arcadian series next weekend.
Ooh.
And we've got Regen 2023 coming up in August of this year, which is hopefully going to be the biggest event we've ever hosted. I'm not going to announce a number or anything. But
No. But you know what's tough is that when's Fate 3? Oh gosh, it better not be in August. Come on, Bird. We need to give you a little bit of a
Fate's in
break.
July, and I'm also on the TO team for that as well to help out with the P plus bracket, P plus side of thing on there. And yeah, shout out to the Fate team as well, because being able to shoot a melee major was insane over the summer, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next year.
Okay, I didn't ask you any questions about Team Regen, even though I said that I would. I just had forgotten. So just real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the goal of this org? Basically, just let's run tournaments and do the best ever at it, kind of an idea.
Kind of, yeah. So it all came about because we realized that our local scene in the Midlands in the UK was kind of dying, which is why it's called Team Regen, because we're trying to regenerate our local scene. And we just sort of kept pushing ourselves further and further, and we were like, oh, we're like somehow the biggest TOing team in the UK. Because we just kept putting on events, and every event would be like, all right, what did we fuck up? What can we do better? And that just got us so good at what we did so quickly. Because we were constantly having that high level of introspection and looking at what we did wrong and what we did right.
Shouts out to Team Regen. That's so cool. I like that. It reminds me of the countless TOs who always said, I messed up, but I want to be better next time. So here are the lessons I'm going to learn. That's so cool. So shouts out to Team Regen. Shouts out to you, Verd. You've been here for a minute now. We've gone for about an hour. So I appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, like we have been saying, there are things that you're doing for this year, going into year 7, showing no signs of slowing down. But hey, look, if anybody's listening and you somehow don't have a good person for taking pictures, this is a person that you can talk to, right? Especially if you are in the UK. But also, what about mainland Europe? What about the United States? What if instead of spending lots of money on a prize pool, let's upset those top players and just focus on having the best daggum pictures that could ever be taken? I don't know how else to spin it, because you're right. There's a hard cap on Smash money, and I understand and not respect it, but I understand that is the limitation that we have. It just makes us somehow do even better, like you were talking about with the TOing stuff.
Yeah,
it's tough, but then somehow you find a way. Part of finding a way is just working absurd amount of hours over a weekend to connect all the dots together. But shouts out to you for doing that as well on the side, and for taking pictures and making that a whole thing. Good luck with your wedding in May. Not you getting married, but you're...
I'm not the one getting married.
Yeah,
no.
You're taking the pictures at the wedding. Good luck with that. And I hope that if you start to do more events, stay close to Smash, I guess. Please don't forget us down here when you're the best photographer in the UK someday or something. I don't know. But it was a real pleasure to talk to you. I hope that if we eventually get to cross paths, it'll be because I'm at a big UK event someday. I just know for this year, it's probably a no. Even though initially I wanted to, I was like, I'm going to go to something like Air or HF LAN. I'm going to something out in the UK or in Europe. This is going to be so cool. And then I got laid off, and then I go, so never mind then. Not gonna do that, but hopefully someday. And hopefully get to cross paths then. But you've been so cool to talk to, and I hope that I hope that all your endeavors this year work out really nice. I hope you have a fun 2023. I will
Thank you.
I'll let you tell the people goodbye, but stick around because we need to do the thumbnail after the outro's done playing. But please, by all means, last goodbyes to the people, and then we'll do the outro.
Yeah, so I guess thanks for listening and goodbye.